Welcome everyone to our live stream here on lichess and Twitch. Wednesday, Retro Master Analysis and Openings. So we're going to look at the games of Astrobate. What is the poll winner of this week? There was a poll asking the subscribers who they prefer. Choice of 4. Earlier this week, Astrobate's Welsh, non-existent. Captain William Davies Evans. A lot of people call me Williams, so now I can do it to someone else. Captain William Davies Evans, born in 1790. This is what we're taking a look at. So, William Evans, who wasn't a professional chess player, he helped to originate the Evans Gambit. Let's take a look at some games. What's up? Astrobate. I want to hear that in Welsh. Nigel Davies Evans. No, I'm just kidding. Nigel Davies is an English grandmaster who lives in Wales, but this is William Davies Evans. 1790 to 1872. That's a pretty good lifespan back in those days. Not bad. So I'm actually on chapter 3 here. I should be on chapter 1. I've opened a new study. The studies for the Wednesday streams are always available. They're not private, they're public. I've created the study Captain Evans! Exclamation point. You guys would like to see that? Paste. Welcome everyone to the stream. International Master William Pascal here. And we're just getting started. Alright, so I've chosen just a few games. We have an hour to look at. We have more or less a little over an hour to look at Evans's games and an hour of opening analysis. I haven't decided what opening. We could look at the Evans Gambit. It would be kind of thematic, although it's not my specialty. I find it interesting. We need someone on sound for that. A resident expert on the Evans Gambit. I think there was another regular on the stream who isn't or hasn't been around for quite a while. Ludmilla was their name. Ludmilla was playing the Evans Gambit. Ludmilla's gone missing. Ludmilla has a tendency to do that, sort of like pop up and then disappear and then go on a sort of sabbatical and come back. Alright, Evans versus Mcdonald. This is from 1825, our first game for today. Captain William is the strongest William of all time. How many Williams have been grandmasters? 2 I can think of. There might be more. Anyway, Captain Evans was not a grandmaster. There did not exist such a title back in this time, and he was not a professional player. E4, E5, Knight F3. Now his opponent Mcdonald was probably one of the strongest players of the era. Knight F3, Knight to C6, Bishop C4. And this is obviously Astrobate's territory now. What's up, Kakatiri? Bishop C4, Bishop C5. Difficult to say if this is the best move or not. I mean, I don't really like to pay attention to the forum here, or anywhere for that matter. Forums don't interest me. Lots of trolls. Trolls like forums. But Knight F6... The problem is, after Knight F6, Knight G5, there really isn't a great solution to this. You have to compromise pretty hard with black. Either like the semi-unsound Traxler variation, the slightly dubious, whatever this is called, this is the same thing, or you go into Chigorin territory with knight a5 check here. But all these variations are a little bit unpleasant for black. So at the end of the day, I mean, it seems like bishop c5 is the move of choice. Like, speaking of the lichess forum, I saw somebody trying to defend, like, playing this. This is just, like, terrible for black. Losing time, not developing her pieces. Astrobate and I have worked on his game from white's perspective. When you see something like h6, it's just like the floodgates open and white has a very, very strong position after d4. So black best played bishop c5. And now the Evans gambit that we know today in modern times is b4 on move 4. But the interesting thing is that actually the first recorded instance of Evans using this type of system here against Mcdonald in 1825 actually is not b4 on move 4. So the original Evans gambit is actually castles now, mind you, and then the inaccurate move d6, and now b4. And whether this is good or not, we can see, but it's not, in my opinion, that important because d6 is not a great move. Black obviously should play knight to f6. This is the only serious move. This is clearly inferior to playing knight f6. Knight f6 puts pressure on the white center, developing the knight to its best possible square. Knight g5 is no longer an issue. So just saying, theoretically speaking, Evans's old gambit here is not that important, really, because black played inaccurately. After castles, he doesn't play knight f6. He just plays the passive d6. d6 is nice, but it doesn't put pressure on the e4 pawn. So you give white the freedom to do something like what he did here, which is pretty cool, b4. A deferred Evans gambit, essentially. The e5 pawn is protected here, so we're not able to take that, but we are going to get a quick strike in the center with c3 and d4. So whichever way we do this looks pretty good. The problem with knight takes is c3 and then d4. Maybe it's not that bad. Knight takes, let's see. c3, I mean, I assume we're just going with this. So ultimately, really, what's the difference between knight takes and bishop takes? Am I missing something? Astrobate, raise your hand. Does white have something else other than c3, knight c6, d4? c3, maybe c3, knight c6, queen b3, but I don't think so. It's funny, like some people have played this, a declined Evans gambit. So this is his game with Mcdonald in 1825. I'm still on the fence, like, I don't understand why this isn't possible. Normally you go forward with a knight rather than the bishop. So let's say knight takes, c3, knight to c6, d4, and there's actually two games here. One in which black surrendered the center. Now we're going to get real Evans sort of transpositions here. Konu János against Hajnal Zoli. These are two Hungarian IMs. This is a game from 2016. Two guys that I've played against who are both quite good players. We've got a legitimate position on the board now. Hungarian Team Championship. 2016. But black wouldn't have to do that. He could play bishop b6, right? Now we're transposing to a mainline Evans. D takes e5. How does this work? How does this work? Someone actually played knight takes e5 in this position, losing a piece. You have to play d takes e5, queen d8 check, knight d8, knight e5. Okay, so this is a standard variation where like black gives the pawn back to trade queens, and white remains with a strong pawn on e4. I don't mean to focus here primarily on opening analysis. We'll do that a little bit later. If everybody wants to, we can continue after this introduction with the games to look at the Evans Gambit. But anyway, so I'm just wondering, you know, what happens in the instance of knight takes b4. Let's see what the oracle says. I've got a weak oracle because I don't have a modern browser. Knight takes b4 is fully playable. It's funny, there's 9 games, no one played that. It's the second best move, according to Stockfish. The difference, this is what we suspected. I mean, the difference is that after bishop takes c3, you have the option to retreat your bishop to a5, which transposes to a main line Evans. In some lines, I guess. What happens on like d4, bishop e6? This is what we're just looking at. I was wondering about bishop a5, d4, queen d7. Is that possible? Wow. This is not possible. D takes e5. If d takes e5, this is an interesting trap. Queen a4. You know that one, Asterbate? Okay, queen d7 is not really a logical move here. Just checking. So the game went c3, bishop a5, d4, and now black really has to develop their pieces. Most players played bishop e6, focusing on the center, and that's the pawn give back variation we just saw there in Kogan. Artur, the infamous Artur Kogan, bishop e6, pawn takes e5, d takes e5, give the pawn back. White should probably be okay here, getting his pawn back. And the central pawn remains strong. The problem is, how do you defend that pawn? Bishop e6. This is Vichy with black. What did he play? No, that didn't happen. What? Oh, Kogan didn't play queen takes queen. Huh. Against Anand? Seriously? Alright. Not a good idea. So, bishop g4 was played by Mcdonald. JCS, what's up? Good to see you again. Always good to see you. So bishop g4 feels wrong, but it looks like Stockfish likes it. I mean, black is, you know, he is getting developed quickly here. The white square bishop, particularly out on g4, I don't like, because it seems like black has a fair amount of weaknesses on the white squares. Normally this leads to trouble, particularly like b7 and f7. There are some games, though, and a couple of them very recent. When I see games like that in bunches, like 2018, it usually means it's correspondence. There are tons of correspondence games. Sometimes they get dumped into the opening explorer, and they're player names that I don't recognize. But when I see more than one with the same exact year, the same ratings, and just different players, it's usually like a tournament. Correspondence chess, they hold thematic tournaments in certain openings. So like the Evans Gambit would probably be a popular one for correspondence thematic tournaments. But these correspondence games do help us to generate opening theory, and all the top players use the correspondence opening databases probably. Here's another game from Hungary, Mcdonald. It's kind of a coffee house style IM. Just call him that because I lost against him once. But bishop g4. So I trust this a little bit more. If Anand plays something, he can be confident. All right, Grosspeter Attila, another one. Bishop e6 looks like the best move. The Oracle likes this move though. Okay, bishop g4, but I don't really want to exchange this bishop off. I mean, in a way, it's nice. It's like a bluff. I guess if queen b3. I mean, would Evans have played that? That's the game. And now, in these correspondence games, there was bishop takes f3. So that's the point. Mcdonald should exchange on f3, allowing bishop takes f7 check. So these weaknesses are relevant, but they don't necessarily give white an advantage because he's already sacrificed a pawn, and now the position of his king. Bishop takes f7 check, king f8. You don't want to get mated. Something like that, king d7, queen e6 acer mate. King f8 is possible. That's the game in these 2018 correspondence games. This must be best play. Take bishop e6. Black sacrifices his ability to castle, but has strong play in the dark squares. And coming down here, and the white king is open. So the conclusion is that this may not be that reliable for white. White's best move according to the computer is this, which is sort of sad. Black gave up a good bishop. Now white gives up a powerful bishop. Black has to play rook takes g8 and then d5 because there's so much pressure on this pawn. But how sad is it to play d5? I mean, you have this diagonal open. No other pieces to back it up. So this doesn't really work. After bishop g4, what are we supposed to do? Queen b3 isn't good enough. Anyway, this is Evans's game against Mcdonald. Queen b3, queen d7. And now white is better. One mistake and you're in trouble. Knight g5, attacking this. The problem is there's a secondary weakness on b7. So he plays knight d8. I ask you, what about knight h6? Can we sacrifice the b7 pawn? This bishop can retreat back to g6 if it's attacked. b7 is not the end of the world because we have rook b8 on the next move. I mean, is there a problem here? Do you have a problem, officer? After knight h6, what does white do? Maybe some sort of f3, f4, trying to get through at f7? Guys, don't all speak up at once. I know it's early there. Astrobate, are you still awake? You play c3. Knight h6. Grabbing this pawn is like rook b8. My queen's almost trapped. My queen is trapped. Nice. Nice. Queen a6, rook b6, hasta la vista, baby. It's over immediately. Wow. Before it even got started. So that's not an option. White has to pursue attacking plans. But this pawn is under pressure. So what's the plan? Like, this is coming to more build up on d4. We can't take on b7. Our d4 pawn is hanging. We can't trap his bishop. His knight is on h6, but that's a small price to pay for being a clear pawn up. It looks like black's doing okay. Do we have anything? No, like an idea that Evans uses in this game is to exchange on e5 and then put the bishop on a3. The computer likes d5. Okay, this is a possibility. Here, c6. That's not a problem. We force the knight back to d8. Now he has this bad piece and this bad piece. I mean, the black minor pieces are pretty spaced out if you think about it. h6, g4, d8, a5. Although this a5 bishop is going to be good. Black's knights are a little problematic. Though I could see him playing f5 later on with impunity. Ekigu. Welcome, everybody. Don't forget to check out our Discord and our YouTube channel. Good morning. We're taking a look at the games of Captain Evans. Here by popular demand. Evans versus Mcdonald, 1825. Bishop g4, queen b3. This is a mistake. And then I'm just asking the question, what if black had played... let's see, queen d7, knight g5. What if black had played knight h6? Instead, he played knight d8 right away. Guarding b7, guarding f7. The game continues. This is the problem, because I was just showing this line. I was just showing what would happen on knight h6. If pawn takes pawn, black can play knight takes. That's kind of my issue. Because where does this go? Where does the c4 bishop go? It can't go to d3. It can't go to e2. If it goes to b5, it just gets attacked by c6. If it goes to d5, same thing. So that's the thing about knight h6. It might be better than knight d8. Because you don't have this pawn exchange. Does Captain Evans play the Evans Gambit? Mostly. Yeah, this is a sort of primordial Evans Gambit. Knight d8. But now you've got this move. See, this turns the tables on black. After pawn takes pawn, he's getting the bishop on a3 and then strafing this diagonal. And it's big problems. So I feel like this is a turning point. A major turning point. If black can't castle kingside and his knight's still on g8, seriously, I think this has got to be a better move. Unless there's something I'm really missing. The computer said d5, but man, that changes everything. Black's up a pawn, it's kind of closed. I don't like this anymore. After knight d8, pawn takes pawn, I think that white's got something serious here. Because our king is trapped in the center. f3. Let's see, how did this go? f3. Attacking the bishop. Sorry, bishop a3. Bishop a3, knight h6, then f3. And now that looks weakening. Check. Here. You know, I guess he could play bishop e6, right? Come to think of it. It's not that stupid. Be nice to use the f7 square for something. But Mcdonald just played bishop h5. He played bishop h5. I mean, I don't think this is necessarily okay either. There's rook d1. Actually, rook d1, bishop takes c4. Maybe bishop e6 is okay. The queen's a little short of squares. He didn't like this, I guess. No, this doesn't look that easy. Your queen is almost trapped after like knight takes rook d1. It's pretty scary for black. Maybe pawn takes isn't that crazy either. But after this, again, you can't go here because of bishop e5. So you have to make the very sad choice between moving your queen there or there. And I don't know how the black king is going to get out of the center. I mean, it's possible this is like strategically lost for black. He simply can't coordinate. Both rooks stuck in the corners, no way to get it together. Well, I mean, the problem is, like, again, black can't move anything. He's frozen. King is stuck in the center. And there's no way. This line is cut off. This diagonal is cut off. You can't play f6. It's very possible that black is just lost here. That's the entire conception. Black king stuck in the center, open position. I think it's probably lost. Plus 2.9. It's dropping a little bit. But usually, like, after +2, black is probably lost. White would be required to play very aggressively to execute here. I think the computer liked this move. Pretty neat idea. So he played bishop h5, rook d1, queen c8. In that variation, when you're talking about playing c5, there's another huge hole at b5. So if you play c5, you can no longer play c6, and white has crushing invasion, like bishop e5 check, rook d7, or bishop d7. It's all just like you're only temporarily saving yourself. The position is strategically lost for black. Anyway, he allows this combination here. Rook takes d8 check. Now, obviously, this is not good, is it? Well, you have to. I mean, king takes this. Maybe we can do king takes. Really? Is there any reason to play king takes versus queen takes? Really? Probably not. Queen takes. Oh man. So it looks like black's alright. He's got f7 defended 3 times. Astermate, would you have found this? f7's defended sufficiently. Our queenside pieces can't move yet. Knight d2 needs to come out before we can get the rook in. It's a few moves before we can develop the rest of our forces. So this is the position black was hoping for. Like, he's hitting the knight on g5. White's queenside pieces still aren't developed. It looks like, Mcdonald's like, whatever, man. Sorry, Captain. You're Captain Crunch. you're going to lose. But he missed a cute shot here. Knight takes f7. It's like bolt from the blue. All of a sudden, e6 is dreadfully weak. Like, the best variation is bishop f7, check, knight f7, queen e6, queen e7, and queen e7. This forcing sequence is the key. And now, knight f7, bishop e5 check, giveaway, c6 and queen e6 with the same mate on e7. Black is like blocked in by his own pieces. The black king smothered by his own pieces. Sorry, Captain Crunch. So after knight takes f7, you can't take it. And the threat is bishop e5 check, queen e6. Bishop e5 opens up the queen. So black can't move really anything logically here. Is king d7 losing the queen? He's got to move his queen. I guess I don't understand the finish here. Why doesn't white have bishop e5 check? What am I missing? Isn't that mate? Was that too brutal? This is more aesthetic, no? I guess black could have played queen f6. Wouldn't queen f6 be the best move? I don't know why wouldn't Mcdonald have played queen f6? This doesn't look that easy. Yeah. It's only slightly better for white. Wow. So the next move is like a huge blunder. Queen f6 holds on to the e6 square. Black's still alive. He even has traps, like taking here. That would be an aesthetic mate. Queen f3, pawn f3, bishop f3. Yeah, you're right, you're taking the rook. What am I thinking? So this. Probably with the bishop. Yeah, I mean, bishop takes threatens, bishop takes g2 check. It's an active threat. That's mate in 3. Or mate in 4. I don't know. If white captures, it's mate in 1. If black plays bishop takes g2 here, it's mate in 3 or 4. Black's threatening a mate or 3 or mate in 3 or 4 with bishop takes g2 check. And I have no idea what's happening. It's probably pretty messy. There's also this threat. So, very chaotic position. Knight d2 is winning. So bishop takes f3 is not the best move according to the engine. It's castle's queen side. Completing development with back rank threats and that, and stuff like knight g4. Wow. So it's possible that taking the rook is even a mistake. It lets black's king escape. The best move is queen a4 check, c6, and knight d6. And the black king is trapped in the center of the board. This way we don't lose the initiative. We keep the initiative. Knight takes rook is materialistic. And that's like the number one mistake that people make in chess, is to be materialistic. This is much better. I'd rather be down the exchange and attacking the black king than up the exchange or rook or whatever. Yeah, it's not really an Evans, it's an Evans prototype. But anyway, the end of the game is cute. Queen h4, blunder, queen b5 check. Now this is another blunder, right? This is over. How did he miss that? Am I missing something? Because this is game over, right? Check and mate. How could Evans miss that? Instead he played queen b5 check, which is also good, I guess. Yeah, maybe I'm arguing really about splitting hairs. Which is really better if they both win by force? Queen b5 check, c6, queen e5 check. Queen b5 check, it doesn't matter. This also is forced mate. Maybe this is more aesthetic. Check, check, and mate. So that's what? Queen b5 check is mate in 1, 2, 3, 4. If you play bishop b5 check, it's mate in 1, 2, 3. So that's mate in 3. It's faster. Scared Knight, thanks for joining us. Thanks for being a subscriber, guys. Please subscribe and support the stream if you can. International Master William Pascal, we're going over the games of Captain Evans. Queen h4 was a blunder. Double question mark. Without a question. Yeah, I mean, this could be an inaccuracy. An inaccuracy. It's faster to mate with bishop e5. Not a big deal, though. Mate is mate. Here's another game. This is the proper Evans Gambit that he played against Saint Amant in 1843. Saint Amant was another master, French master, very famous. He probably had queen b5 planned ahead of time. e5. Oh, this isn't an Evans. Okay, I forgot I put this in here. The acerbate attack. Now, what is this? Somebody was playing this. It's the Edgar McCormick opening. Somebody was playing this on my stream against me. Don't remember who that was. It's not the Ponziani. The Ponziani. It's a Ponziani prototype. McLeod attack. Connor McLeod. Ponziani's on move 3. Ponziani is knight f3, knight c6, c3. So we got Emery Tate versus Eric Vandendole, 2008. The most recent. c5. This is not a good move. Well, it does matter. Of course it matters. Black has different moves here. c3 is considered less accurate than knight f3, knight c6, c3. Ponziani is sort of respectable. This is not. It absolutely matters. This never was considered to be a legitimate opening for white. But black's answer here is poor. After c5, there's a kind of weak point at d5, and black's not developing any pieces. I mean, clearly, it's a little similar to like the C3 Sicilian. Black needs to put pressure on white, either d5 or knight f6. It's kind of the same thing as the C3 Sicilian. If you don't put pressure on white, you're worse. I would imagine this is not that crazy, actually. Someone played that. A little too aggressive. Because there's no knight c3. Yeah, I mean, this is the same thing in the C3 Sicilian. Why is d5 justified in the C3 Sicilian? You can take with the queen, you're not getting hit by knight to c3. Exactly. But this is not considered okay for white, and the C3 Sicilian is. So these moves have to be pretty strong. Van den Dole just played d5. You know, I would imagine this... maybe not as clear. d5 is a simpler answer. But here, Saint Amand played c5, knight f3, knight c6. I bet Captain Evans would have liked the Smith-Morra Gambit or something. I mean, Wormius, if you look, the move gives black a distinct disadvantage. But how do you define losing, you know? I mean, you're slightly worse with white after 2 moves. It's clearly not a good move, but there's a big difference between worse and losing, you know? It's... white is plus 0.4 and then goes to minus 0.4 when he plays c3. So you don't become like losing necessarily, but it's not good. It's a gradual. It takes more than 1 move usually to lose a game. But I mean, c3 is not a good move. c3, c5 is justifying c3. This move completely justifies it. Now it's like black played e5 in the C3 Sicilian, which is a kind of crappy move. Literally, that's what this is. This is e4, c5, c3, e5, which is just garbage. If black had like 1 more move, maybe his position would be fine. But the problem is this diagonal in the d5 square. We don't have enough white square control. Knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, yeah. And I think that d4 is also decent for white here. Probably. But bishop c4 is consistent. Old school. This looks like something King's Gambit considered. King's Gambit is better than c3. More respected. Bishop c4, knight f6, d4. I mean, I think top players don't really respect the King's Gambit a lot. Wormius. People will play it from time to time, even at the close to top level, but everyone considers it sort of a second-rate opening. d4, c takes d4. Now here, I guess, we've got a very interesting position. I thought Astrobate would appreciate this. You know who else would appreciate this? Probably Blobix. We haven't seen him in a long time. He likes to recommend e5 against the Smith-Morra. This looks like something like that. It's e5 for black in the Smith-Morra. Sort of like a deferred Smith-Morra or something. It's basically like a hybrid. But more of a Sicilian now because black's played c5. So knight g5. And we get a really interesting game here. This knight is protected by the bishop on c1. So there's no problems with that. This seems better than the 2 knights game. It seems better than the fried liver. That piece is protected. I mean, what do you have here, essentially? Position similar to the fried liver, but white's position is really benefiting from that bishop being open, I think. D5, ED. Now, the million-dollar question. Yeah, it's similar to that. Similar to that, Wormius. It's very classical. Like romantic. But after knight takes d5, knight f7. Wow. They're even like... There's a recent game by Dubov with black where he lost against a 2486. There's some actual games. Enrico Saviano, that looks like it was a C3 Sicilian. Enrico always plays C3 Sicilian. It must have been transposition. Though it could be an e4, e5 opening too. Not really easily though with a c5 move. This is unusual. E takes d5. What about knight a5? Not as good here like in Chigorin. There's no c6 pawn to play c6 any longer. Well, I'm not justifying black's game. I mean, I don't like black's position from c5. You don't play c5 here. Which casts doubt on the idea of playing e5. But I mean, I was talking about Blobix and I was talking about him talking about the Smith-Morra, you know. What are we talking about? So like e4, c5, d4, takes, c3, e5. I mean, that's one thing. That's similar, right? I don't understand it, honestly. Don't like it. Alright, this little French guy's for you. He probably watched too many Saint Amant games or something. This is Evans versus Saint Amant, 1943. Excuse me, 1843. So knight f3, knight c6. Sorry, Blobix. Knight f6, d4. This looks good for white. Bang. It just looks good for white. What is black supposed to do here? d5, okay. E takes d5. Knight takes d5, and now knight takes f7. Maybe it's not good enough. There's one game. Again, likely this is a correspondence game. Boris Vladimirovich Ivanov, who I've never heard of in my life, against Maciej Broniak, who I've never heard of in my life. So I'm willing to bet like 95% that's two 1600 players using their computers to play correspondence chess. If you look up Boris in the FIDE rating list, he's probably like a 1600. But he has the best possible computer assistance. Actually, not really. Looks like Marius's engine is stronger. But after king takes f7, queen f3 check, king e6. Yeah. It's huge. You know, it's huge. Without knight c3, like you're talking about, black's fried liver is justified. It's still dangerous. This is a real game, though, the first one. Munoz Pantoja is a Peruvian IM that I played here in Budapest. So that's interesting. Some guy, like this Spartak guy, was actually willing to play that in a real game. Spartak Vysokin. That's pretty crazy, dude. Maybe it was Rapid or Blitz or something. But I wouldn't play this in a real game with white. Yeah, I mean, it's not the fried liver. It looks dangerous, but still. Your point is well taken. This knight can come to c3. I mean, white doesn't have nearly as much play as in a normal fried liver. Without that, it's a whole different game. I'm sure that the computer will say that black is better here. Eating my words. Computer says it's close to equal, actually. So, Stockfish 11. I mean, there's now Stockfish 13. It's actually equal. White has enough play. I thought that black would be slightly better. I mean, we don't even have a pawn. You know, white is down a full piece here. Is it possible there's some kind of draws by repetition? I don't see any immediate draws. So this is an interesting position. Wow. King e6, castles. And they're following this real game. Black played knight a5. So they replayed Evans versus Saint-Amant, 1846, in a tournament game in 2008. And Munoz played exactly the move that Saint-Amant played with knight a5. White is a little short in development. This is an extremely logical move, but it also puts the knight on the side of the board. Castles? I don't think castles can be a mistake. One of our main ideas is to get the rookie one. And getting the king out of the center can't be a bad idea. White's king is not safe. Really, we only have... I mean, CD brings the knight to d4, which I don't like either. So the only other move white has is really knight d2. And I think castles is right. Knight a5. And so Evans plays bishop g5. Wow. Munoz, his opponent played bishop d3, which is not as awe-inspiring. I mean, if you're going to play something like this with white, you got to have all your marbles that day. And white has no room to make mistakes here. He's down a piece. You got to bring all your ammunition to the to the game. Man. I mean, true. Like, bishop d3, this knight is on a5, the king is out in the center of the board. But, I mean, if bishop g5 works, it's got to be better. We're developing a piece. Queen g5 just loses the piece back, right? Bishop e7 drops a piece to bishop takes d5 check. Queen takes d5, queen takes d5, bishop e7. It's kind of funny, though, to think about it. Like, theoretically, black could sacrifice a piece back to have like good king position in an endgame or something crazy like that. This type of position, I'm not sure, you know. It's possible black is doing great because he has a really, really strong king on d5. Is it out of the question? You like bishop e7? Yeah. You're right. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Okay, never mind. This is better. No, I mean, there you have knight. No, you don't. Okay, yeah, of course. All right, you're right. You're right. You can't do it. Yeah, I'm simply taking on e7. Okay, never mind. So, thank you, Wormius. Bishop e7 is not an option. It's a much stronger move than this passive bishop d3. Bishop g5, queen d6, cutting the king off. And now he really went caveman. g4. That's subtle. So why can't black play g6 now? Because of queen f6 check, winning the rook. Man, this is subtle. Ask her mate. It just feels like Captain Evans had a little more energy than Munoz Pantoja's opponent there. A little more inspiration with the mate there. I'll tell you one thing, queen d6 feels claustrophobic, but we don't have too many options. Anyway, guys, I'm going to show you what happened. Queen d6, g4. And now black played queen d7. Which looks... I mean, white has contributed this to his position. Black has put his knight on the side of the board. I think bishop g5 and g4 is a bit more constructive than knight a5. So he now plays bishop d3. Every move a threat. You know, if every move is a threat, then there's a chance your opponent will make a mistake. I wouldn't want to see Captain Evans play against the computer. Now he starts walking away. I'm sorry, what happened there? Bishop g5, g4, king d7, bishop d3, queen f7. We obviously cannot trade queens under any circumstances. Check. King has just one square. Position is still unclear. Now what do? Do we take on d4, try to open up the position? Right? Black can trade pieces. Bang. Now we trade on e5, open up the position. And I can't believe it, he took on e5. Chess Murph. This is Captain Evans versus Saint Amant. What about king c7? I mean, let's be rational here. King c7, pawn takes f5, and white is threatening e6, winning a piece. I mean, that's the only rational move for black in this position. There's nothing on the c5 because the knight can come back, so I assume we would play this, threatening to play this, and then pick off this knight on d5, in addition to attacking chances. What does the oracle say? Wow. Wow. It's defensible, but really hard. Maybe white is even winning. I mean, I don't think Stockfish 11 can calculate this brute force. It's only on depth 20, and it's +1 for white after g6. That's an interesting game. Very, very close. But as far as I'm concerned, this is game over. I mean, when we put our king on e5 here, I don't think you're surviving. That's your intuition kicking in. My intuition says you've gone too far. You're out of your mind. It's got to be game over after that. This is just not justified. You can't walk out in the middle of the board with your king on e5 here. I'm very surprised if that's not like the losing move. Yeah. Confirmed by Stockfish 11, king e5 loses. It's just unrealistic. You can't expect to survive with your king out there on e5. G takes. Now obviously if queen takes, rook e1, game over. Cutting off the king from the queen. So he tries to coordinate. Check, king d6. Now can we get him? Now our knight c3 is coming in at some point. He has another check though. And now obviously one would expect king c7, but he's going to lose the knight on d5. After this, queen d5. It's over. The queen is unprotected. We're threatening rook takes c6 check. So now he's like forced. He's forced to walk out to c5. Always a threat. Check. And it's another acermate. King b5 to the side. Now here I would expect white would bring out a new piece with knight c3. I would expect white is winning here after knight c3. But he played queen d3, which is a bit surprising. Looks like mate. I mean, try to defend this. How do you defend this? I don't see how it's not mate. Because queen d3 will come next. If you play king a6, then I have queen d3. And it's clearly mate, isn't it? Here. Here. You're going to have to walk out again. You're going to have to go to a5. I don't believe there's any way black can survive here. There has to be a mate. I mean, it's a good tactics puzzle. I'm sure there's a win for white. I'm not feeling lazy now. It's mate in 4. a4. Let's check it out. a4, a6. Rook takes c6. B takes c. Queen d2. Yeah. You eliminate the defender of b4 and there's this. So I'm surprised. I mean, queen d3... Yeah, knight c3 is the best move. I mean, here he's getting back to b6. Strange. He was hunting the queen, I guess. After this, check. So he just, like, figured out a way to win the queen. It was a practical way to win the game. After king c7, he loses the queen. After king c5, he's definitely going to get mated. The only other move is king a6. And then you got the b5 thing again. Though I guess black... No, you're losing the queen again, sorry. Yeah, there's no way to avoid losing the queen here. That's his point. Losing the queen in every line. So after check... I don't know, objectively black should play king a5, I guess. This way we can spare ourselves the torture of losing the queen. This has got to be the try. But I mean, I think you're going to lose anyway. With that a4 kind of stuff. Black will never survive. Actually, queen d5 check. Ideas are going to come in again. a4 followed by queen d5 check. So both moves win, but I feel like this is definitely going to be a mating net. Queen d3. He's set on winning the queen. Check here. Rook takes c6. Okay, so the last game I selected was... I've got to go. I'm just going to run through this last one quickly. It is an Evans Gambit. No, this was a d4 game. All right, never mind. D4 game. Evans versus Harwitz, and this is from 1846. But it was cool to see. I think it's cool to see a player of that generation play against the French. C4. What am I talking about? It's Queen's Gambit accepted, but it becomes a French. So takes e3, e5, and they go into a exchange French, which is really, this is really 19th century. After e5, it's still cool to see d4 at that time, because d4 wasn't played that commonly. Chessmurph, how are you? Take, knight f6, knight c3. I play this line with white here. I've played it quite a bit on stream. Uber driver, maybe not. Who else? My old friend Ted McHugh used to play this with black. h3, rook e8 check, bishop e3, bishop f4, and this is like, you're just asking for it, you know. He sacks a pawn. Here's a Tim Taylor game from '06. Those are USCF ratings. Castles. I would play castle and sack this pawn on e3 like Taylor did. But Captain Evans gets even more aggressive and then goes for f7 directly. Wow. What are you going to do about queen e7? You like my wow?
Well, yes.
Corey Acor against Timothy Taylor. USCF National Masters. Actually, Tim is an IM. Alright, bishop e3. Bishop f4. When I moved to Budapest, I found some of Tim Taylor's articles in an internet cafe in one of the machines. Got to be more careful about your cybersecurity. Those are the days. Internet cafes. Right, we've got knight f3, castles, h3, rook e8 check, bishop e3, bishop f4, queen b3. Subtly attacking f7. That's the weak point in this variation. Actually, the whole thing, if you go to e5, if you play e5 break in the queen's pawn game, like Queen's Gambit, Slav, that's the thing to think about. I mean, you've got problems with the f7. When you play e6 in this type of position, you're playing with like a 4-pawn island to protect your king. It's much safer to play the black side of the Queen's Gambit accepted where you're keeping the pawn on e6 and you're playing for a c5 break. I mean, fundamentally speaking, you should attack the white center with a flank pawn, not with your center pawn. And that's the risk involved. I've always liked playing against this because we do have access to f7. And this is perfect for a player like Captain Evans, who obviously specialized in that diagonal. E takes d4, e takes d4, knight f6. So we got this. Queen b3, queen e7, castles, takes. Man, this is cool. Morphy. It's a shame that Morphy never got to play Captain Evans. That would have been a rocking game, huh? There's no recorded game between Captain Evans and Morphy. He wasn't on Morphy's level, but he's got the style going on. You're pretty sure he doesn't have a boat? He was a sailor. He was a real captain. More than a chess player. Packet boats. He wasn't a professional chess player. I'm not as him. Skipper. Rook AE1. That's a beautiful move. So very efficient development by white. And again, that's the Morphy. I feel like that's sort of Morphy's influence going on at that time. Quick development, expedient development. Black's probably almost lost here. And now rook takes with energy. Screwed the pawn structure. I mean, honestly, like, white has a clear advantage after pawn takes e3, but we're going to have to give up the... We're going to have to give up the white squared bishop, and I don't like that a lot, allowing a trade of pieces, and our best piece, probably. Maybe white doesn't have a clear advantage here, actually. Maybe white's got nothing. If we could get an e4, maybe white's still better. If not, then I'm concerned. So rook takes e3. Man, f7 looks terminal. Knight g5. One would expect knight g5. This pawn is hanging. However, I don't know how relevant that is. Black can play knight d8, but I'm not liking our development here for black. It looks like a miniature in the making. Another one of Captain's combinations. White is all over him. You might have something like knight b5 hitting a second weak point at c7. I don't see how black can survive this realistically. There's no way you're surviving this. I'm not sure what the best move is. This is certainly good too. But it's kind of awkward that it blocks the rook, I guess. So if knight d4, we're just take. I mean, the simplest solution is what, like this, and we're up the exchange. I don't think the black could survive. So knight e5, d5, knight d7, and there's a problem with development. Evans strikes again. Bishop f7 check. Queen f7, e6. That's devastating. Kicking the queen off the diagonal so you can play here, capturing with check. So black has to take. Evans was very good with forcing moves. Queen e6, all business, just trading down the winning ending, and it's over. He was businesslike. Businesslike, crushing, and it's over. Mastering the end game. Black resigned. Alright guys, let's do some opening analysis. That's enough for Captain Evans for today. Captain Evans was impressive. There's only 9 recorded games I could find. One of them being like a consultation game. So you've got a guy who only, he probably played many more, especially informal games. But most of Evans' games were probably like Skittles. Essentially like informal games in those days. Captain's done for today. We're going to do an opening analysis. Third Evil. Thank you to Mr. Slowhand. 222. Now we're getting some bit donations for the week. Welcome everyone. Mr. Slowhand 222, Bowie 49 with 200, Agnes Karadiuski with 100. Don't forget to subscribe, check out the Discord and YouTube channels. I'm trying to reincorporate my Discord. It was on pause for a while. Pub Sladgie is open again. If you guys want to check it out, all the videos are posted there, as well as on YouTube. What are we going to do? Karpov, Queen's Gambit requested. Fabergé eggs. Wait, is that like Fabergé eggs? You're giving me like bad memories of the estate sale I had to host 2 years ago. Less than 2 years ago. I basically had to throw out a lot of really good stuff. Don't go there. I threw out like French china. Don't make me remember. Practically giving it away. Maybe there were some Fabergé eggs. I don't know. I'm homeless. No. I live in Hungary now, but I miss my stuff. Alright. So what are we gonna like? Karpov, Queen's Gambit? Mr. Slowhand with a request. Alright, let me get our study open. Let's get a study open. Study, sorry. Learn, study, new study. Wednesday. Wild Wednesday opening ideas. Wednesday opening ideas. 3. What's up? Queen's Gambit? Seriously? Mr. So is the only one to donate. But what do you mean, Mr. So? You're talking about playing the black side of the Queen's Gambit? Karpov style? Karpov against the Queen's Gambit decline. Karpov with white. I'm unprepared here. Well, my favorite variation that Karpov plays is against the Tartakover. After knight c3, knight f6. Bishop g5, bishop e7, e3, h6, bishop h4, castles, knight f3 here. Like, this is Karpov's pet variation. We should look at Karpov-Kasparov. Bishop e2. But I didn't intend to study, like, particular players in the stream. I mean, I want to study the opening theory. Bishop e2 against the Tartakover. I mean, the Tartakover is extremely tough. Maybe black's most reliable. I would say probably black's most reliable variation. I mean, you can play... Black can play like the Lasker, but that's basically kind of playing for a draw after knight e4. I mean, I don't think that white has any real problems with risking losing here. But lots of good players have played the Tartakover for black. You know, I think that it's one of black's better ways to play where there's still some winning chances. But what to play with white against the Tartakover? You know, that's really the problem. Karpov has like bishop e2, bishop b7, bishop f6. We don't see any Karpov games here. Bishop f6, c takes d5, e takes d5. I see a lot of other games though. b4 is my favorite move. Again, no Karpov games in the list. Anand, Carlsen, Topalov, Kasparov, Aronian, Adams, Topalov, Kramnik. How about this variation? I mean, how does white get an advantage here? This is actually Karpov, Kasparov. I don't understand why those games aren't in the list. But they played this in their first World Championship match in '84. Kasparov played c5. He was playing the black side. So there you see a '98 game, but I mean, that's modern. It's funny because Kasparov playing this in '98 seems kind of strange against Topalov. Bishop e2 seems very superficial. Well, it's a good question. I mean, if you could show me how to get an advantage against Tartakover, Mr. Slowhand. Natural moves don't cut it. One of the biggest problems I ran into was actually, it doesn't matter. I mean, black can take here. I'm not sure how white can get an advantage wherever you put your bishop. If you play bishop d3 or bishop e2, black can take. Fanchi Imre played like this against me. He just took on c4. And like guaranteeing the diagonal stays open for the black bishop on b7. There's also exchanging pawns on d5. But then black trades pieces after knight d5. This is like Capablanca. Bishop e7, queen e7. There was a funny game I played in the team battle on Sunday where my opponent played this and I played knight d5 pre-move. That was embarrassing. But normally queen e7, knight d5 takes. This is like a standard position. But it's hard for white to get an advantage. Mr. Sloan says, I mean, Karpov would just try to wait for slight inaccuracies to exploit them in the endgame, right? Well, I mean, you've got a very concrete plan here. When you're playing bishop e2, the idea is that you're going to play bishop takes f6, trade the bishop, and fix the pawn structure. I mean, this is a brilliant strategic conception. We fix the pawn structure and we play for a minority attack on the queen side. It's changing the game. I mean, so this bishop is now closed down on this diagonal. It's something to play for. I actually have a very good score here. But for me, the interesting thing is, theoretically, I don't know about Karpov, particularly, being great on the white side of the Queen's Gambit. That was his general style, to kind of wait. But I'm more interested in opening theory here. So I want to dig into some concrete positions rather than, talk about how a particular player would play. That variation is a big question for me, actually, now that you mention it, though. After knight f3, b6, bishop e2, bishop b7, is there any way for white to get an advantage here? Bishop takes f6, take, b4, c5, b takes c5, b takes c5, rook b1, bishop c6. So I think this is Karpov-Kasparov from their first match. Castles, knight d7, bishop b5. You got even 2011. It's not enough for an advantage. Maybe Karpov also played bishop f4. I mean, this has been a big movement lately. If you think about it, most players have moved away from playing bishop g5 in the Queen's Gambit accepted. That's crazy. Stockfish wants to play this. There's like 80 games there. Okay, this is an outdated Stockfish running on my crappy computer. But I mean, another thing to discuss would be playing the Horowitz attack with bishop e7, bishop f4. There's a lot of theory now. Karpov also probably played this. I mean, this is more like main line today. Probably the most trendy variation for white in the last, let's say, 15 years against the Queen's Gambit. It's now main move. At least it was for a while. Maybe fashion changing in 2020, 2021. It's hard to get an advantage. You've got Nakamura, Aronian, a lot of people playing black, willing to play this. I think bad choice for Hikaru in particular. He became obsessed with playing solid defenses for black before he went into his streamer stage. He abandoned like his more aggressive defenses. I think it's inexplicable, but still, it's a solid position for black. How do we try to get an advantage here after castles for white? E3, and then they're capable of playing like passively, knight on bd7. You've got a hard time getting an advantage. Yeah, it's a London bishop, but we're not playing any silly c3 setups. I don't know. I never really studied this, so it's interesting to take a look at it. c5 is the main move, and we'll see like tons of games. Anand Carlsen, Nakamura Carlsen. I'm surprised we don't see any games with Nakamura with black. He's definitely played this. Yeah, we're trying to solve the solution to getting an advantage against Schieber-Spieler. c5, taking the pressure off the center to gain space. It's a lot like an a6 Slav. I'm pretty frustrated with the Queen's Gambit. I don't think there is an obvious solution. But I wouldn't want to play this for black either. For example, bishop d3, knight f4, ef4. You got Nakamura with both colors, Kramnik, Aronian with black. So these guys consider this to be completely okay for black. Even though you're cramped, you have a fundamentally solid position. What about you, Schieber-Spieler? How do you like to play against bishop f4? Once against Ribley, I played c5. It's extremely risky for black. c5, d takes c5, knight a6. I held a draw against him, but it wasn't fun. You know, this is an extremely sort of dangerous variation where black's king is in castling. In your line, I play c5. Oh, right. Uh-huh. See, Schieberspieler plays this, the Semi-Tarrasch. Which is not the Queen's Gambit declined in the classical sense. So Schieber's tricky. He avoids that bishop f4 stuff. You know, interesting question though. What about this? Yeah, I mean it looks different. So c5. You're striving to undermine the d4. Look how few games there are in this position. Only 150 games in the Opening Explorer. I never quite understood though. Well, I thought it was something to do with like maybe d takes c4 and the fact the knight can come here. That has to be a line too for black. Try to exploit the London position. Yeah, there's no knight b5, right? But I mean, actually, that would be possible even in the other position. I mean, even after knight f3, bishop e7, bishop f4, this is a move, right? White has e4. Nick, DeFermian versus Golko. Okay, that's a weird game. DeFermian playing d4. What? Kamsky versus Sipidov. I can see Kamsky playing this. So bishop f4 right away is an interesting attempt for white. c5 is Schieberspieler's recommendation. Approved by Michael Adams. Nigel Short, as much as I dislike him personally, is probably one of the most accomplished Queen's Gambit decline players. In fact, I mean, Short would actually modify his move order, right? I mean, this is something that we should bring up now that we're talking about it. Nigel would in fact play bishop e7 in this position to avoid, this is in the 90s when bishop f4 started to become popular. People started to play this move to literally try to discourage bishop f4, I guess. I mean, sorry, to discourage bishop g5. But there's no reason to discourage bishop g5. I guess it avoids certain variations of the queens. Maybe the real reason is that it avoids certain variations of the exchange variation they don't like. Like main line's exchange variation. The main line of the exchange variation after knight f6 cd5 was very, very popular. So this is different. You know, if you play this, this is a different line. It's also extremely theoretical. I just don't know how to get an advantage in the Queen's Gambit. I wish Mr. So hadn't asked about this. I know that c4 is white's best move here, but if you ask me how to get an advantage with white, don't know. There's no way. I'm actually kind of shocked if you look at the Opening Explorer. There's something wrong there when like white's score with knight c3 is 34% wins to 21% wins for black. That doesn't seem possible. What world is that in? Also, knight f3, 36% wins for white to 18%. In what reality is that happening? Like, is that at the 1600 level or something? These are supposed to be master games. There's no way that white has that kind of plus in those positions. There's no way. Like, not in a million years. That's unbelievable. So knight c3, knight f6. I don't understand how white has a plus score here of double. Exchange variation, I guess, is number one. Yeah, Karpov also played the exchange variation, now that we're talking about Karpov. Maybe he played it more than I thought. There's always this move. Schieber, do you play that? You would play knight takes d5, right? Now it's hard for white to get an advantage. Yeah, that pretty much puts the kibosh on the exchange variation. All right, any other suggestions for what to look at here? I've got like half an hour. We can look in more concrete variations, maybe. Yeah, I think we're on the master database. This is it's crap, you know, basically. It's not a real database. I'm sort of boycotting ChessBase now. But actually I have been for a long time. But the problem with the lichess Opening Explorer is that there's millions of games that are missing. Like the other day I was analyzing a variation in the Sicilian, and all of the key games were not in this Opening Explorer. All these games, like dozens of games from the 70s and 80s that are like critical in one line of the Sicilian, are just not even in the Opening Explorer. I was like, that's great, you know. Chess didn't exist before 1990. Do you know how much here, like important theoretical games were played between, say, like 1950 and 1990? There's like this whole base of theoretical games that are like totally not in the Opening Explorer here. The Cambridge Springs is a nightmare too. Let's look at this. Alright, my feeling is that, like all variations of the Queen's Gambit accepted, it's okay for black. It's a little more aggressive than stuff like the Lasker, the Tartakover. A little more risky for black. But my feeling is that these lines, the traditional lines with knight d2 are not enough. So we can look a little deeper here. Let's dig a little deeper in cd5, because this is the way that we've got to play for white to play for an advantage. So cd5, knight d5, queen d2, I assume is the main move, but I never looked at this, honestly. I doubt rook c1 has any independent value. It just gives black additional options, right? Like, how does that help white to give black additional options? Could. Maybe black will do something stupid and like take the pawn on a2 with his queen. After this, like knight c3, Carlsen, Mamedyarov. I mean, somebody might play a move like that. Khan a-bar. If you want to lose, this is an excellent way to play with black. No offense, a-bar. But I mean, that's a very, very dangerous concept. But this is clearly a line. But again, I don't see the point for white to give black extra options. So we play queen d2, main move, and then bishop b4. I only have half an hour to analyze, so we'll look at the main line. Bishop b4, forcing this move, rook c1. Here I don't know. Does anybody here know this variation? I have only a handful of blitz games played on lichess as my theoretical experience, having played the older lines with white. But I know that some top players favor this stuff. I had a training game with one player who shall remain anonymous, that things went badly for black. They omitted the move h6. So in many lines of the Queen's Gambit, you get the move h6 for free, like in the Lasker variation, the Tartakover. This particular player that I'm remembering the training game with has a sort of deficiency that they don't move their rook pawns. They were taught too strictly not to make pawn moves, and they omitted this move. But this seems to be a constructive move for black. The point is that later on, white won't have access to the g5 square. So after h6, white has to play bishop h4. And the fact is that this knight can't go to g5. The player in question, I later won a game by playing something like knight g5, knight e4, knight e6. So you're taking that square away from the white pieces. The dogma of not moving one's pawns plagues many newer players. Yeah, I mean, Ben Feingold is, maybe being like joking when he tells people that never play f6. I don't know how serious he is about that. I assume Ben is just saying tongue-in-cheek for absolute beginners. But the problem is, when beginners start to become intermediate players and they need to play f6, they're not playing f6 because they're relying on their Ben Feingold catchphrases that don't apply anymore. f6 is just to keep like 3-year-old kids from getting checkmated in the first 10 moves at scholastic tournaments. The Ben Feingold rule. It's not meant for intermediate chess players who are working on becoming masters. Like, you need to play f6 in a lot of positions. The problem is it has to be done, carefully. You have to consider all your options. But moving the pawn to h6 does weaken black's kingside slightly. But it's worth it. Taking away that square. Alright. So this is Tartakover. Chapter 1. It's Chess Murph. The bathtub structure, I call it the pawn smile. It's a smile. It's smiling at you. It's a strong structure. It's all how you look at it. So now b6. When you see Alexei Dreyev, that's a good sign. Interesting thing about Dreyev was, like Karpov and Kamsky, he was trained in a school where they really didn't push him to study openings, and he became a very good, well-rounded player. But unlike Karpov and Kamsky, Dreyev is much more theoretical as a mature grandmaster. He's a really good player to follow if you want like kind of sound but relatively aggressive style of play. This is a good sign to see that he was playing this with black. b6 or c5. c5 attacking the center. Why is white better in this position? This pawn is why white's better in this position. You could say, well, white has one more piece developed or something like that. Do we really, by the way? 4 pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4, sort of, right? If you count the queen, white has better development. But I mean, the main thing is this pawn on d4. So this is the main line, c5, trying to undermine or destroy white's central pawn. If you take on d4, either you destroy my pawn or I'm going to have an isolated pawn. a3, and now what? Bishop takes c3. See, this is the problem with c5, though. There's no retreat for the bishop. Kramnik-Shirov, 2010. Carlsen, Ivanchuk, 2009. Draw, 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 draw. So if you thought the plan was to take this pawn on a3, again, you're wrong. It's dangerous. It loses time. The plan is probably something like bishop a6 to develop and then trade off white's bishop pair if possible. There's a move here, c4. Safe move, trading queens. But this move looks more aggressive. And now bishop a6. Now what are you going to do? See, that's the plan. Eliminate our attacking pieces. As Dragon Kosic says, just trade off two of her pieces and she doesn't know how to play chess. That's basically the idea. She can't attack if she doesn't have enough pieces. She being, whoever. The player with the white pieces who desires to attack black here. This player can't attack if they don't have enough ammunition. And black's plan is to trade the pieces off. So my intuition would be to play c4, but that leads to trade of queens. So again, it's only like a very small technical advantage for white. Mamedyarov, Halif Mendreev, 2004. Mamedyarov, Ivanchuk. What do we do? c4. Queen d2 check. Queen trades are welcome. Yeah, I mean, black's fairly solid. And the hanging pawns, which aren't hanging yet, are quite a responsibility for white. But let's see. Queen d2 check, knight d2. We're following Mamedyarov versus Ivanchuk. Ivanchuk, who knows every opening, by the way. He's ridiculous. He probably plays like every single opening. And he knows everything. It's like unbelievable. cd4. And there's your hanging pawns. Knight f4 and black is fine. This is hit. This is hit. There's a weak square here. Bishop e4. Rook c8. I guess if you really want to be a great chess player, you emulate Ivanchuk. At least his play in the openings is amazing. How can he play so much different stuff and know it all? Bishop g3, g5, and there goes the bishop pair. So there's nothing here for white in this line. So let's look at the main line. Notice the statistics here. I don't think that it's very statistically significant. The sample size isn't big enough, most likely, but it's still noticeable. Like, against c4, white never loses, almost. Whereas in this line with bishop d3, he's losing a significant number of games. So let's take a look at c4. Queen d2 check, knight d2. Knight e7, almost universally played. Carlsen Magnus. And Wesley So versus Dreyev. So there's some interesting games here. Wesley beating Dreyev in 2017. That might be an interesting game to follow. Relatively recent. Just 3.5 years ago. The only recent one. Carlsen Ivanchuk is 10 years plus. So f3 is the idea. Giving this bishop retreat square back to f2 so we can hang on to our bishop pair. I mean, there's a lot of similarities here to the Nimzo. White has the bishop pair, but his bishops are kind of restricted. Black playing with a knight pair. Sorry. Wow. Ben Feigl, don't move the f-pawn, right? f5 is the best move. It looks like White has never won a single game against f5. That's a good score. We're in good shape here. Computer just loves the bishop, but where is White's real advantage? He didn't say anything about f5. Alright, so f5 is okay. f5 is the best move there. And black has a pretty good sort of blockade style position. Dingley ran. So what did Dreyev do to lose? Dreyev drew with Rager in 2012 with bishop b7. How did he lose to Wesley? He played bishop a6. So I want to see, how did he manage to lose against Wesley? He also lost to Grishuk in 2005 in the same line. I mean, the only thing about this move that's a little bit weird, if you think about it, I mean, black wants to get developed. There's really, like, massive protection of c4. Like, it doesn't cause any problems for white. Though eventually black is going to have to develop their pieces. This seems to be the best move. Now knight b3. Horrible square for the knight. cd4. I don't like that move, though. This knight is kind of boxed out. There's only one good game here. Dreyev is the man. Now bishop a6. Huh. Maybe black's just lucky that he never loses games in this line. You know, seriously, I mean, we can't take these games too seriously. Some of them are correspondence games, though. I guess. Maybe we should take them seriously. g5. This is correspondence, for sure. I guess white is slightly better. Schieberspieler probably would like this for white. Two bishops. Slight grinding chances. But let's go back. Let's go back. A3 is the #1 move, forcing black's hand. But there are other moves. Not scoring too well. Bishop c4 is kind of an odd move. Played by some good players. So what's the idea of cd4? Or Aronian versus Shirov 2011. This isn't very inspiring. I mean, I feel like this is the only chance. A3, bishop takes c3, b takes c, b6. What else can white do? Bishop d3 we looked at. Bishop a6. Okay. So it's not forced to play c4 and trade queens. this is similar to the game that I played. What if we allow the exchange of bishops? So let's castle. Let's keep the queens on the board and allow the second exchange of pieces. Can white still count on some advantage here? CD4, bishop A6, queen A6, and I'm starting to lose faith in this line. Man, this doesn't look like anything. F6. The joke's on you, Ben Feingold. This guy actually played that move. That is sort of gross in this position. CD4 is down a pawn. Queen A3, too dangerous. Man, Peter Heine Nielsen lost against Dreyev. Castles, E4, knight F6, queen E3, rook C8. Trade two pieces and she doesn't know how to attack. That's what's happened here. Master theoretician, Peter Heine. And he's got nothing. Queenside majority. No attack. This is a good system for black. It's just really essential that black plays a H6 move. You know? This seems key. H6, bishop H4. The thing is, there's a second variation. I mean, you can play B6 as well. So C5 is just one way to play. The other variation is good too. B6, A3, bishop C3, B takes C. Now C5, I guess it's just going to be a transposition. So it's the same thing. Black could play bishop A6 instead. For some reason, no good players play this. Okay, Videki Shandor, but he's been retired as an active player for 15 years. Oh, that's Yevgeny Agrest. Actually, there is one stronger player who's played this. C4, queen D2 check, knight D2. And there's one win with king D2, but what about the E4 square? Thanks to Agnes Kardewski for the donation. Black played 97. What about this? King D2 in this position, huh? Maybe it's better because black hasn't played C5 and can't open the center as quickly. Maybe white can get away with king D2, whereas in other positions they can't. So that's just not necessary, and black can play C5, and then we transpose back into the main line. And there's like very hard for white to get an advantage. So basically, this is a great system for black. The conclusion is that the Cambridge Springs variation is totally the bomb if you want to play the black side of the Queen's Gambit. In the main lines with bishop g5. Well, this didn't come as any revelation to me, honestly. I know that it's impossible to get an advantage against the Queen's Gambit. Declined. Objectively, I guess we still have to go back to d4, d5, c4, e6, knight c3, and c takes d5. But here you have the problem not only of getting an advantage in the exchange variation for white, but also solving Schieber-Spieler's piece change variation. I think we should play knight a4. like a shot Nadanian against the Grunfeld. That's what I'm going to play next time against Schieberspieler. Knight a4, preventing the freeing break c5. And after bishop e4 check, I just trade pieces. Fine. It's your good bishop. Trade it off if you want to. I mean, seriously, if you can do it against the Grunfeld, why can't we do it here? I'm just kidding, guys. This is really a joke suggestion. You've actually checked it? I don't want to trade pieces. It's never been played in Opening Explorer. There's always this possibility as well. Bet you haven't checked that one. I don't think this is as good, though. Maybe. Maybe it's not so bad. The devil is in the details. But in seriousness, what do we do? E4, take, c5. Which is a royal pain in the butt. Let's take a look at this for our last 10 minutes for today. How to solve the Schieberspieler defense. So it looks like knight f3, pawn takes pawn, bishop e4 check is already sort of frustrating. But let's see what Magnus did. Here, he managed to beat Kramnik twice. Check, queen takes, castles. Now bishop c4 is the main line, traditional main line. But I'm not convinced that's White's only plan. Well, I mean, maybe the truth is that we should play one of these funky moves. Theory needs to evolve. I mean, Carlsen so, Carlsen Dominguez, Carlsen so. This is how you key rush Schieberspieler with ultra modern anti Semi-Tarrasch theory. Magnus did his homework here, I guess. I doubt that objectively White's advantage is that big. But he has an awfully inspiring score. So you won against Fiddler in this with Rook b1 in the simul. Rook b1, bishop e7. I don't see the point of bishop e5 check. What did he play? Knight f3? It's not in the spirit? What? What's the spirit? Are you serious? Take knight c6 to trade? Oh, you want to keep doing bishop b4 no matter what? Well, we're going to hit you with an exchange sacrifice. It's interesting. Spindler's got a game there. Obviously, rook takes b4 at the key moment. Bishop c4. Triple exclam. Dropping a pawn. Yeah, I mean, it looks a little artificial for White. So if knight f3, you play bishop b4 check. So White has to go here. Yeah, there's two Bacro games. But I mean, there's something very artificial about rook b1 and bishop b5, clearly. a6. If you give up your white square bishop, it's a tactical position. I mean, White's got something. Is this your game? Killing the bishop in the name of Yeah, that's a bishop. Killing in the name of... Yeah. Oh my gosh. The swamp creature from the Black Lagoon rises after c5. Comes back into reality. No, if the swamp creature can come back, then black's alright. Black's trying to kind of destroy... And white's trying to destroy black by giving him a dead piece. So everything hinges on that white square bishop being able to come back to life. Svidler Bakro, Nepomniachtchi Bakro. Castle. Trading your opponent to death. This is Schieberspieler's main line. How did your game go? I'm looking at it now. Castles, bishop e7, bishop e3, cd4, knight d4. I'm not in love with bishop e3. What about bishop a3? Just trade everything off. It's the Zoltan Ribley Leko school. Vampire chess. What pieces? It's hard to win if you don't have any pieces left. You've exchanged everything. Tregibov versus Garamian. Take, queen takes d4, castles. You still haven't managed to develop your bishop on c8 there. There it goes. Ugh. Yeah, this is sick. White might even be worse now. It's pretty cool. Everything on the back rank trick. And then bishop c6. This is a sick game. Game drawn. After a5. Warnacki. a5 with the idea of rook a8 and rook takes a2. When white could definitely find a way to lose. Yeah, black may be better here. I never thought about it. The lichess explorer ends on move 25. You know, I never really thought about that. Agnes Karajewski, thank you for the gift sub. No problem at all. Gifted a gift sub. Guys, I gotta go in 2 minutes, so I just wanted to show you how... We'll finish with how Schieberspieler's game went. Svidler followed Svidler. Svidler beat Bakro with this move. So, you know, the point is... What is the point? I forgot what the point was. Well, in the Garamian game, black's queen came to e7 after the exchange of bishops, and black was able to play bishop e7. We want to find a way where black can't develop the pieces. Bakro managed to lose this. cd4, knight d4. Bishop d7 naturally. Wow, Sakayev lost against Kovalenko too. Kovalenko had probably used 30 seconds to this point. Sakayev's like hour. Queen G4. Was this your game? Still? Kovilenko. He's been known to play quite quickly. But Spidler played Queen G4 and beat Bacro. And Spidler played this against Schieberspieler. You're telling me he like changed against you? He didn't repeat his game with Bacro? He didn't remember? Wow. Yeah, it's counterintuitive in a way. But he wanted to threaten Bishop H6. I mean, basically the dude is like threatening a cheapo here. Castles, right? Bishop H6, Bishop F6, and black is fine. He said he didn't remember, but he was really just trying to play for cheapos after E5. His move against Bacro is better. It looks like he's got a little something. Rook F D1. You know, this is no good. I mean, E5, Knight F5. Kind of unpleasant for black. Yeah, it looks like after this, you're okay. I mean, you think about it, E5 might be a liability later on. If Bishop H6, what do you do? Sack the exchange? Well, you're not sacking an exchange. You're just winning a pawn. Okay. Yeah. All right, guys, I got to go. Thanks, Schieberspieler, for sharing. Sharing is caring. I got to go. That's it for our analysis of the Queen's Gambit for today. We got a little bit of Cambridge Springs and the Semi-Tarrasch there with Rook B1. Nothing's refuted. Queen's Gambit draws by force. Conclusion reinforced. I'll see you all later. Thanks ever for watching. Thanks to you guys for being subscribers. Thanks Agnes Kariuski for adding that gift sub and for the donations today. I'll see you all tomorrow night for the subscriber stream at 6:30 CET Thursday night. Appreciate it. Some Mr. Slowhand, Schieber, Astrobate, all the regulars, guys. We'll see you tomorrow night for the big Thursday night party. Have fun, guys. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Goodbye. Panda wants to be on the stream. Hey, I haven't talked to you guys in a while. Alright? It's not right that he doesn't let me talk more. I want my own show. Help me get my own show. Bye-bye.